I have truly enjoyed the opportunity to be with you for this short series and looking forward to what Brother James has to say to us as we look to conclude, this section, James 1, 2 to 12, where he teaches us how to turn our trials into triumphs. I'm especially thankful for it because, yes, trials come my way, and I'm not always employing what James says, so it's good to be refreshed and to be reminded. Because sometimes we don't realize that remembering, reflecting is a critical part of life because we tend to forget. Not just forget because something is wrong in the upstairs section, but because there are so many other things that compete for that place that they can push some stuff out and away. So here we go as we just reflect upon James saying, count it all joy when you encounter various testings. So we must have a joyful attitude. What if I had a sad one? Is that going to help me? No, because I won't even probably be willing to do anything to change it. I just accept it. So I am not exercising patience because I think it is passive acceptance of circumstances. I hear people say in Trinidad parlance, so what we going to do? Nothing. But we have it inside of us to dig deep. And that's what testings are intended to do. Make you dig deep, to search, and to use what you've never used before. Don't let it become rusty. Use it, and that's how we mature. That's how we grow. We expand. So James says, count. He says, because you know certain things, you are able to now surrender your will to God. And having surrendered that will to God, now you're in a position to ask. You see, what we do first is run and ask. First thing is run and ask. We haven't even evaluated the situation to see what we can do. God, help me now. Get rid of this for me. Right? Rather than understanding and evaluating, say, let me see what do I know that I can use to deal with this. Maybe I realize I have not really been as submissive to God as I should be. So let me do that. Now, the metal is ready for the maker. Open up and ask. Ask and it shall be given. Seek and ye shall find. Knock and it shall be opened. And then we don't realize then that asking has to do with the quality of the mindset or the heart. It comes from a believing heart. If you really trust God, when you ask something and it comes out of the knowledge and the surrendering of your will, you're more inclined to ask in the will of God. Now, James has listed his letter in a very progressive manner because later on in this book of James, you're going to hear James talking about wars and fightings within and among people. And he will talk about they ask and they ask amiss because the aim of asking is to consume it upon their own lusts. Now, if that is the case, there's no surrendering. There's no surrendering. There's not the knowledge and awareness that God will test to bring out the best. We don't have to, there's no patience. So therefore there's unbelief. So here is where we talk about asking now. James says in verses 5 through 8, if any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God. Don't be ashamed, for God giveth to all men liberally, and he upbraideth not. And it shall be given him, if you ask with a believing heart. When you ask, you can say thank you, even before you ask. As a matter of fact, Paul in Philippians chapter 4 says, be anxious for nothing, but in everything, by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your request be made known to God. So your request or your asking is made known to God after you have surrendered and after you know that God is willing to give according to James. You are thankful even before you ask. Somebody says, well, if I never get it, I won't be thankful. For what is there to be thankful for? That's if you're dealing with man. But if you're dealing with God, he takes the thing up a notch and a few notches. So we can understand that he's not like us. He wants to give us way beyond our own thoughts and imaginations. So we should pray for wisdom. Pray for wisdom. Knowledge is the ability to take things apart You know, we want to learn something, you dissect a radio or a computer or whatever, and you see all the parts. It's, oh yeah, it have this, it have that, it have motherboard, it have this drive, everything. But wisdom is the ability to bring things together. All that knowledge you have gained in ripping that thing apart, can you now use that to put something together? So sometimes we tear things apart to gain knowledge about it, but we don't have the wisdom to put things together. And that's where James says, ask for wisdom. So we need wisdom to use everything we learned from COVID-19 to make a better life, to make a better individual, a better child of God, a stronger person, a more resilient person, a more faithful and dedicated person, a person with more compassion and love and purpose in life. After COVID-19, we could bounce back better than ever before if people develop the right mindsets and they learn from what they faced. So here it is. We need to ask for wisdom that is from above, not the wisdom of the world. The wisdom of the world says, you have, go ahead and be lavish. You enjoy. Forget about the man in the corner who doesn't even have a drink of water. Once you have, that's good. Get all you can all you get, and forget everybody else. The wisdom from above says, no. Think about your fellow human being who's disadvantaged. And wisdom from above helps you to make the right use of knowledge. We need wisdom so that we will be able to use the opportunities and not waste them. Those opportunities that God gives us to mature. He provides us. They're all around us if we know what to look for. And if we are walking in the path of God, He sensitizes us. So when we ask, we must have a believing heart. We must ask in faith. Look at verses 6 and 7. But let him ask in faith. That means believing. Nothing wavering. For he that wavereth is like a wave of the sea, driven with the wind and tossed. Verse 7. For let not that man think that he shall receive anything of the Lord. That's very strong language, you know. The greatest enemy to answered prayer is unbelief. Greatest enemy, unbelief. James describes the doubting believer as the waves of the sea. Up 1 minute, down the next. You ever watch the ocean? Sometimes the tide is in, the tide is out. Sometimes you see those big breaking waves coming in and then So he says, this doubting believer is kind of like the waves of the sea. Up one time, down the next time. And then, of course, in verse number 8, he says, a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. So if you don't have your mind fixed and firmly planted in the Lord, you know what God says. You have that understanding. You surrendered your will to Him. You can now ask with thanksgiving, knowing that God doesn't have any desire to refuse. He wants to provide. But if you are double-minded, thinking one, then the next, and you're doubting here, and then you perhaps, and if, he says you'll be unstable in all your ways. It doesn't only exist in that area of your life. It spreads to other areas of your life, and it creates instability in life, uncertainty, and then you cannot fulfill your purpose. So James closes the section with a beautiful beatitude when he says in verse 12, those who patiently endure trials will receive a crown. And 1 Peter 5 and 4 substantiates that, where he says that if we are faithful till the end, God will give us a crown of glory that will never fade away. Turning your trials into triumphs. Here it is. Count. Have a joyful attitude. Know, have an understanding mind. Surrender your will to God and ask with a believing heart. We hope that this short 5-part would have helped you. to understand and to realize that testings are all around us and they're outside, but God can use them if we follow His prescription to bring out the best in us, to make us more mature, make us stronger, more resilient. So we encourage you, stay safe. If you don't know the Lord, take some time to inquire in His Word. We stand ready to help you, to share with you, and we ask you continue to subscribe, continue to share with others. Until we join you next time, I am Mahesh Bisundat, bidding you God's blessings.